Hi everybody, it's Christopher and welcome to Life's Not Over, It Just Looks Different on YouTube. In today's video, I want to talk about my experience with public speaking. I once heard a statistic that said more people would rather be mauled by a bear than have to get up on a stage and speak in front of people. As a guy who lives only about an hour from what is known as bear country here in Alberta, Canada, I can honestly tell you that I would rather be on any stage, any day, in front of any group of people if I never have to meet a bear ever. And when I look back on it, I've always been this way because even when I was in elementary school, I always had my hand up at show and tell time. And then when I got into junior high school, our grade 8 language arts teacher wanted us to do public speaking, so she gave our class assignments throughout the year to do first a 1-minute speech, then a 2-minute, then a 3-minute, and then a 5-minute speech. Was it nerve-wracking to be up in front of my classmates and doing those speeches as a junior high kid? Absolutely. But I loved it. In fact, I wanted to do more of it. When I got into high school, I enrolled in a radio and television arts program in my high school because teenage me wanted to be a radio announcer. And I had a wonderful time during that program. I first learned about Toastmasters when I was in my early 20s. And I knew that it was about public speaking, but I really didn't investigate it much beyond that at that time. Although looking back, I wish I would have, because I had to do the toast to the groom at a friend's wedding. And I had my speech all written, and I got up in front of the audience, told all my stories, got great laughs. But when I watched the video playback later, I noticed how nervous I was because my notes in my hand were shaking like a leaf in the wind because I was so nervous up in front of that group. So while I never had any hesitations about getting up there, I didn't have control of my nerves to be a good, effective public speaker. It was in 2008 when I finally decided to look into Toastmasters more seriously, and this was about 2.5 years after my sight loss. I did some online searching and found that there was a club very close to where I lived. In fact, it was within walking distance. So I went to check it out. And the room was wonderfully warm and inviting. The Toastmasters members were all very wonderful people who were very supportive. And I thought, yeah, I want to do this. So I signed up, and I was actually part of Toastmasters for 4 years. One of the things that I learned early on in my time in Toastmasters was that I was not going to be able to use notes for my speeches. Now, the Toastmasters program did allow you to use notes, especially in your first few speeches, but I knew that for me, with my eyesight, no matter what font size I printed my notes in, it just wasn't going to work for me to be able to have notes up there in front of people when I was doing a speech, because if I lost my spot, I'd have a horrible time finding my spot again to be able to continue speaking. So I made it my mission to memorize each and every one of my speeches. There are two main parts to the Toastmasters program. One is an impromptu speaking portion where you're given a topic and then you're asked to speak for 1 to 2 minutes on that topic, depending on what the exercise is that day. And then there is the formal speaking portion where you're given a manual that has a number of speeches in it, and each of those speeches has different objectives that have to be achieved for that speech. That's where I learned that I also really liked writing my speeches. In fact, it became a bit of a running joke amongst some of my fellow Toastmasters members because I revealed to them that sometimes I would rewrite my speech 2, 3, and even 4 times. And in a few extreme cases, I actually had a speech completely written, and then a new idea would pop into my head that I thought would hit the objectives even better. So I would put aside that other speech and start all over again writing a new speech. Probably a little bit overkill. I made a few observations when I was in Toastmasters as well about the motivations that people had for joining Toastmasters. I found that some were joining because it gave them a reason to get out of the house and it was a social environment. They'd meet some new friends, try something new, and maybe challenge themselves a little bit. Then there were people there who were having to do presentations at work and wanted to improve their public speaking skills so that they'd be more comfortable and more effective when they were up in front of their boss or their fellow staff members. And then there were the aspiring speakers in the room. And I have to admit, I was one of them. The aspiring speakers are the ones who are hoping that if they go to Toastmasters and they improve their public speaking skills, that someday, somewhere, somebody's going to pay them to get up in front of an audience and speak. I didn't know where that was going to happen or when that was going to happen, but that was the goal in the back of my head. It was in 2018 when that goal started to come to fruition, because I got a job working as a community education person for CNIB in Calgary, Alberta. Doing community education meant that I was going out to schools, seniors' homes, wellness fairs, anywhere that they wanted to send me out to talk to groups about CNIB and vision loss, and really just letting people know that there is life after sight loss. When the pandemic hit, that kind of put a stop to any presentations that I was doing on behalf of CNIB or out in the community, because nobody was having in-person gatherings anymore. And for a while it got very quiet until about the late summer, early fall, when people started to figure out this new realm that we're in, and they started asking for presentations to be done virtually. And doing presentations virtually is a very different experience than it is to do them live and in person, because you don't have the audience interaction the same way, and you don't really get the feedback, because very often on these video conferences a lot of people are muted, so you don't get to hear if people are responding to your jokes or your stories or any of that sort of thing. But I kind of fashioned it back to my time in the radio studio in high school, when it was just me and a microphone, and I never knew if my jokes were landing or my stories were resonating with people anyway back then either. But at least this time, in a video teleconference in this day and age, you can at least see a few people on the screen, and you can kind of tell if they're there, and you know you've got an audience. So it does sort of, for me at least, it gives me that energy that I can find it and I can still deliver as though I were in person. Although yes, the vibe is still different, but I can at least give it a good shot. And the other thing that I found that I've really enjoyed about this, and it's been working really well, is that I can do all of these presentations from the comfort of home. And I can do a presentation for Southern Alberta in the morning. I can do one for Northern Alberta in the afternoon. And in fact, earlier this week, I did a presentation where I co-presented with a colleague of mine in Ontario while I was sitting in my dining room in Alberta. And we presented to people in Alberta and Ontario for a 1-hour conference, and it was amazing. So this has been something that has been really cool to come out of this pandemic experience, is that we're able to do these sort of things and even have a wider reach than we ever had when I was doing it in person. Something else that has come out of this recently is in the past couple of months, I've been asked to do a couple of presentations speaking to groups of usually younger people about my experience with public speaking, and offering suggestions and tips that they can use to be able to be more effective, more comfortable speakers. And so I've been offering up 3 main points that I'll share with you today. And the first is enroll in a program, whether it's Toastmasters, Dale Carnegie, or whatever public speaking program you can find. Enroll in a program, learn from it, absorb what you can, take in everything that you can to have that chance to learn and practice. Second, do public speaking as often as possible. Take every speaking opportunity, whether it's an audience of 5 people or 500 people, whether it's in person or virtual. Just take the chance to do it, because the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, and the more you'll figure out what works for you, what doesn't, and you'll hone your craft that much more. And third is have fun with it. As I've shared in these videos more than once, I am on this planet for fun. I'm always looking for a way to have an enjoyable time in whatever I'm doing, and public speaking for me is one of those things. I know, as I talked about at the beginning of this video, it's not for everybody, but if you're going to do it, why not figure out how to have fun with it? Because it lets you be more at ease, it lets the audience be more at ease, and it's a greater time all the way around. That's what I wanted to share in today's video. I want to thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you who watch these videos, and I hope you have a wonderful day.